Okay, we'll kick straight into it. Right, Steve Kerslake, tell me a bit about yourself and kick off.
So, Steve Kerslake, I'm a glorified ground worker by trade, I suppose, kind of now. I work in the construction game. I've got my own construction side of things, but also I'm the founder of Construction Sport, charity built around building teams and saving lives is our motto, thanks to this man. We ultimately want to promote the positive sides of the industry and show the industry that it is the best industry in the world. Personally, I think many people in the industry don't actually realise that it is one of the best, but the statistics will say that it's obviously the worst in terms of mental health and well-being. We want to use sport to pretty much improve everything about it. It's proven in every other industry that sport works. The military is before this mentioned. They use it as a way to look after mental health and physical health, and they also look at it as a massive tool to recruit. So we're pretty much saying there is no excuse why we can't do it. It's just a lot of companies we've got a lot more people in the industry than the army and the navy and the military personnel. The British police do it, the ambulance service do it, the fire brigade do it, the banking and insurance world do it. They do it on a weekly scale. It's just for instance, I played in a couple of rugby matches every single Wednesday in East London and South London, South West London. And it's just a big networking do every time. But they use sport, and people bring people along from outside those industries, and they have a drink in the clubhouse, and they end up getting a job in the insurance world just because their mates brought them along for a game of rugby. So we're pretty much saying there's so much that sport can do. Every time there's a World Cup on in football, rugby, cricket, or anything like or Olympics, everybody just sings praises about it. It pretty much brings everyone together. As everyone said, sport brings people together, and we're trying to do that to ultimately save people's lives. So that is what we're going with.
Yeah, and do you think, obviously the construction industry has a massive shortage of labour, it's probably number one on the list. How your work, how can you correlate that to the lack of supply of labour into the industry?
But using it as an advert, basically. I just going a little bit of a tangent, but I nearly joined the British military when I was 16 to join the Royal Marines, but I nearly joined the Marines because there was an advert on TV saying I could go skiing, and I literally live in the mountains. And I was 2 weeks before I actually went to Livingston down south. I had to start the training. All the paperwork was nearly signed, and then someone said to me, it was just post 9/11, said basically, if you have they sold you the dream you were going into the snow? I was like, yeah. He said, I'd done the same, and I was in the desert within 6 weeks, and then suddenly I put my hands up, I completely bottled it. I said, no thank you, I'm not in there for that. But I was interested in that because of the advert on TV will promote sport. I know I've seen it, I've been in many of these meetings, but it just doesn't happen. But if we all come together as one, my idea, and I'm speaking to some well-connected people at the moment, or I'm speaking to the right people, I believe, is just to start with something, again, military based, like the Invictus Games. Why can't we do that in the construction world? Something like that, where we start from we get to the small companies and the tradesmen at the bottom, but we've got to start from the top and let it fall down, because you can't push it from the bottom, I don't think. But why can't we have Balfour Beatty versus Costain versus Volker Fitzpatrick versus Morgan Sindall versus Kia? They've got thousands of people in their companies. Why can't we literally nominate these people? It doesn't have to be high elite, it's just a big social gathering, really, and a networking opportunity to promote the sport. If we can show what that means, and I know, like, when you look at university leavers, not so much the trades, but the white collar folk, all these big companies, it's down to them to compete for those people now. There's not enough people in the industry, as we know, so how can they make themselves look more attractive to those people who are pretty much out there? So if Mr. Costain goes, and Mr. Balfour Beatty competing for one man, and suddenly Mr. Costain sees this one lad who's, I don't know, an architect or something like that, or an engineer, and says, look, we notice you're also good at rugby, so if you can come and get involved with us, we'll put you down this line as well, and you can represent us in that. And how good would that be for the industry, like their company, to be promoted in that way? Australia do it. I had a friend of mine in the banking world, went to Canary Wharf for a job, and they said no to him. He went backpacking because he came out of Oxford University, played varsity match for Oxford. Literally, Canary Wharf refused him, wouldn't give him a job in the place he wanted to. He went backpacking as to just get on with it for 6 months and just live his life a bit. Walked into the same office but in Melbourne, and they gave him a job tomorrow. They didn't want to know what he'd done because they just literally saw he played rugby. So they gave him a job on the fact that he could play rugby for a sport.
It's a big part of employer branding is like you have to find out what people are interested outside of work. Yeah. Whether it's cooking or whether it's running or whether it's whatever. Yeah. Going to raves.
Yeah. It's not even just like competing in it or being. Yeah. It's just, even just like being part of it or engaging with it and being a fan. Like lots of people like my rugby days are shortening at the moment, but just because of my age and fitness, I suppose. But I can't take the hits that I used to. But in sport, but just by being a part of it, I've now got a 3-year-old boy who I can't wait till he's playing. Just be a part of a team environment and bringing him up through that. And I think that echoes into sport. And as I say, I've done a thing last week and was listening to Brian Habana speaking with the Rugby Centurions, and he literally said, like the Rugby World Cup for them when Sia Khaleesi lifted the World Cup, he literally said that gave the whole nation hope. And he said it doesn't matter what you've got in the world, if you lose it all and you still have hope, you'll be okay. So hope gives you everything, and there's so much of that can be brought into any day's life. I think all that ultimately is what people need to realise when the tide's turning against them, that they've got to hold on to a bit of hope.
Yeah. Steve, talk to me about mobility of labour, because there's so many people on the tools I know that will just drop the tools and go for an extra 10 quid a day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Can we talk about more about this and how brands can actually stop that in other ways besides monetary terms?
Yeah.
You know, how can they offer different facilities besides a race to the bottom, essentially?
Yeah. Relationships, I think, is probably the one between the people at the top and the people at the bottom. I've worked in the freelance world probably for the best part of over the last 10 years, probably 6 or 7 of those years were freelance or self-employed, however you want to look at it. And I never once met one of the recruiters I worked for in person, never. And then they wonder why you drop the hat and leave them. They expect all this.
The agency recruiters, maybe.
Agency recruiters, yeah. This time, yeah. It's quite funny. And now, fortunately enough, I'll give them a big up. GBR Solutions guys we work for now, Jeff will speak to him and they'll come out and see it, and he realises how different they've got to change it. Tiernan knows Jeff as well now. And the face of that, for their point of view, you probably understand the agency side a little bit. But I'd speak to people, you're the best friend, we've got something for you, we've got something for you. And then I did come off and then don't hear from them again for 3-4 months. And the relationship is, to them, is just a second-hand car that needs to be passed on again. So
it's a broken model.
Yeah, and I just think if you've got, I've got a team of guys that work for me. I've also got a construction company in the background as well, what pretty much funds me to push what I want with the construction sport. But the lads I've got down there, I'll blow my own trumpet a little bit, but they would drop things at the drop of a hat for me because I look after them. And I always say to them, I come down and say, it's job and knock, get things done. This is where we need to be at the end of the shift. They work full-time nights for me, so I said, and I say to them, we do this 8-hour shift, but if you do it in 5, 6 hours, I don't care, get home. Because I know how bad night shifts are, and I know they are family crushes, and people. There's a lot of divorced men who work night shifts, put it that way.
Yeah. No, I tell you, man, there's some lonely people.
Yeah. So and these boys, I stitched them up last night with something, and they rang me up this morning and said, if we didn't like you, we would have walked last night, but I knew I had a bit of in the bank basically with them. But yeah, but it's relationships. If we can create that model and giving people the opportunities, I also struggle probably now with working for big corporate companies in the infrastructure side of things that I have done in the past, purely because I'm strong enough now to say no, it's not right that you talk to me like that, or this and that. And I had it within 6 hours of working on a site. During COVID, I realised I'd go back to the tools for a bit, just because there was literally nothing going on. And I had one guy on one of the biggest jobs in the country, really, I won't name it too much, but he'd come out and he just spoke to me and another guy. I'd not even met this guy. And I gave him what for, and we clashed, and then and then he was fully respectful for me the day after that. But I was like, why is it acceptable to speak to people like that? You know what I mean? And but it's coming round. It is coming round, I think. But there's still a massive divide. Like, every single person's got something different behind them. But the mental health comes into it again. Like the people that come across big, aggressive, and negative towards you. They're probably they only really like it because there's been a hell load of stress put on their shoulders in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through the job or through personal life. But yeah, relationships. If you can build relationships, I've seen men go to different jobs for an extra £1 an hour, so £10 a day, and it's costing 20-30 quid extra to go down there to get that job to that job. But they don't look at it like that. They look at it straight up. They don't do the easy bit of maths, or they do an extra hour in the car and there's local fuel there. But they don't look at that. They just look at the paper and it says they're going to get that much more at the end of the month. And it's like, it's not really it.
Sure. When I look at construction companies and I just look at different industries, like for example, what sticks out to me, and I've passed this on to construction companies before, a lot of the best brands, they have their own employer page. So Life at Nike, Life at Microsoft. And if you go to these websites, they're just their own standalone websites, but what they do is they might do a series of, who is the best or who is interested in sewing, and they'll do like a 6-episode series. They'll gather their staff. They just say, Zoe, John, whatever, likes sewing, so we're going to do a series, 10 minutes each video. We're going to go out to their house, we're going to film it, and we're going to put it on our website page. Right. And it's because they love that, that's their passion. And then you have your company come along who are actually promoting it on a platform where thousands of people are going to look. It just shows that like the company's actually interested in just what you do outside of work.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just empowering the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the wires can get crossed, and I think that's where people can really miss a trick is, like everything Steve basically touched on is about communication, and it's relationships, it's empowering people, it's making people have everyone wants to feel part of something, have a sense of self, and people aren't going to have that if you commoditise them for an extra £1 an hour or an extra this, and if the communicating is always downhill, it has to be both ways, and like you just said, like Nike, Microsoft, these big companies, they get that, but perhaps construction isn't quite yet there with regards to empowering the people with a voice. So
well, it's at a tipping point now, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it's such a different model, isn't it, compared to any other industry. And when you think, because that's what we're talking to a company at the moment about, supplying the companies that support construction sport, that we need to give them at their HR departments, their management systems, a way of them to support their guys more. But these companies come into us, they literally say, yeah, we do it per head, blah, 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 and it's all done like that. And we're like, yeah, but this system isn't per head because our guys haven't got access to computers like you have in a Microsoft office, I'd imagine. I'm not in there, but if you've got all these guys on laptops, they've got these emails coming up, they've got access to that all the time, so we can't rely on. The people are saying apps, and I think apps is just a palm off to literally say we don't want to communicate with them directly, we'll just give them something and we can say we've done something personally. That's how I feel, but that's another subject. But it's one of those, just get in front of people and be personal with people and have actually some interest in them. And there's a few actually too who've done it. Murphy's are good. You mentioned Murphy's, they've done one before, but and there was the other company. There's a company who I met through Murphy's, a subcontract agency, and they used to have an end of year do, and they used a family day and bring in all the family, and they lived in their big office car park, and they had a barbecue in there. It was in the summer barbecue, and they had a double-decker bus full of just. It was one of those. No, it was Mackin's. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're still going. I think they are. Yeah. But they've done that, and literally invited all the staff and bring all their families, and it was brilliant. And then that's how good to say, if you've got a 15-year-old there, and he seems, man, look at this environment dancing, it's fantastic.
Because ultimately you're spending 8 to 10 hours of your day with your work people, but to support your family. Your family don't see you for that much time a week. Do you know what I mean? But then it's good for them to understand the people that you are working with. You know, they hear the name, so you probably go home and say, oh yeah, I had a nightmare with, John earlier on, and here's these names, but wouldn't know who this person is really. And it's sometimes it's nice to really kind of get to meet.
And then it's a support network for the family as well, isn't it? Because they can see, whether their mum or dad in the industry, either way, they can kind of see, we're not the only family here missing our father, a mum or a dad, that they're doing the same. It's that kind of like-minded people, isn't it, really? You can notice you're not the only family there missing that person who goes away Monday to Friday or 10 hours, 12 hours a day. For sure.
Right, so while with the cameras on this side, give us an introduction, let's go for it.
Okay, hi, I'm Zoe. Do I look at you?
Yeah, you can look at me. Yeah, you don't look at the camera.
I'm Zoe O'Rourke. I work for PhD Access, which is a scaffolding business. I'm very passionate about construction industry. My kind of career into construction is a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I kind of went from I went to an all-girls school. Construction was never ever promoted in any way or form, and then I went from going from an all-girls school. I went into sort of marketing and business development roles. I had started my family, and then went into education, and after that had an opportunity to work in the construction industry. And the reason I did that was I was being offered flexible hours around the family, which was a really really sort of helped me manage my sort of home life.
Flexible hours in the construction industry, is it?
Yeah. For the role that I was doing, they were flexible with me. I moved over, and that was in 2014. So I've been in the construction industry for 7 years now. And there's just so much positive stuff going on. Even with the company that I'm working with now, there's just little nuggets of just great examples of, people supporting each other, some great stories of, kind of camaraderie between teams, people helping each other out, and there's just, sometimes I don't know where to start. There's lots of good things going on, and that's why I just think it's a shame that young people haven't got their eyes open to the industry. I actually find there's actually quite a lot of similarities between the education sector. Thinking of schools, you go into a school and you've got, things are kind of coded for children, colour coded so that they understand, the rules and the safety, and you do the same thing on a site with the health and safety, different colour hats for different roles. You've got different signs up to kind of make sure people are aware. There's, actually from going from a school system into construction should be kind of quite easy for people to kind of navigate. It's a shame that it's just not, children. I've got kids. I've got 2 boys, and I used to say to them, so, would you consider a career in construction? And they'd say, nah. And I was like, why? They just seem to think it's like outside digging in the dirt. I'm like, well, no, there's plenty of other roles. I said, I work in construction. I'm not sort of, out in the cold. And, and plus, some people like being outdoors. My younger one, he's a bit more outdoors. I said, would you be interested? And he's like, no. Finally, I've actually got my eldest now. He's looking at an apprenticeship within the construction industry now. But it's taken a lot, and this is both his parents are in construction, and it's taken him. He's 17 now, and he's only just started to realise. But I've had to kind of sort of back off a little bit, and just let him understand it himself, and know that actually, like you said before, there's a great network within construction, and that can be. For example, if he does go into this apprenticeship scheme, I can support him, his dad can support him, plus we know loads of other people and companies that can give him the work experience and help him sort of progress a career within the industry. He originally wanted to go into something like, he's studying business studies, so he was thinking more along the lines of doing something maybe in finance or working in the city. So I asked him, what is it that you're looking at? He's like, I kind of like the idea of running my own business. I said, well, you can do that in construction. There's so many great business opportunities in construction. If you're creative, it doesn't have to be necessarily doing something that is, the sort of, bricklaying. It doesn't have to be, one of the sort of trades. There's just so many opportunities. Yeah, because anyone can start a business, can't they? Really, it's not really. Yeah, it could be a support. It could be a supportive role.
You get out of that habit, like everything with the apprentice and all these things. Like working in the city is sexy, but a week working in the city, it's not so sexy. The commuting.
How much they have to spend on a suit.
Exactly.
With the shoes. I was thinking about when I left school, and it was. One of my first jobs was working for lastminute.com, and we had these really cool offices. We had a little table tennis table, we had bean bags, and this was kind of, back in sort of cheap, I won't say, before my age now. And I was thinking, you mentioned about working at places like Microsoft, and the Google building is now being built in King's Cross, and you look at the designs and the plans they have for that. It's going to have a running track on the roof, gardens. They're going to have, I'm sure they'll have some really funky breakout rooms. You could probably skateboard inside. I don't know. But all those things seem to attract. That's what kind of young people seem to be attracted by. And I don't know whether we need to. Maybe that's. Something we can look at.
People aspire to be YouTubers now, don't they? So what YouTube was, I don't know.
I was definitely one of those people that wanted the sexy, not the YouTubers, but the sexy business or whatever, working in the city and wearing suits. And then I just realised, all our work is employer branding, and it's not sexy at all. It's tough work, like, you know, it's a lot of admin, a lot of bureaucracies, but you actually get a thanks at the end of a project. Whereas when I was trying to be the biggest creative agency, Saatchi type thing, I was like, it was just absolute torture, you know. But when you do stuff that is like, actually, it can be unsexy and it can be tough work, but it's actually really valuable and someone really appreciates it on the other side, it's actually, there's a lot of, you know, there's a nice thing to that too. Like.
It's changing as well in terms of what people think a role in construction looks like today. And you know, when you speak about young lads, and the same as that whole generation is they spend a lot of their time playing Minecraft, playing video games, doing all this stuff, and it's essentially Fortnite. It's creating something with a finite amount of resources in an architectural way, and that's exactly what construction is. And if we think about the way that the whole world has developed in terms of tech and the way that construction is still second only to agriculture, but that is ever changing, what a construction role will look like in 10, 15, 25 years. And it's BIM, it's building information management, it's 3D design, it's this, and there's this whole new raft and world of construction opportunities opening up for these young people. And I think there's still some way to go in communicating that development, but it's kind of like the chicken and the egg scenarios, and it's not fully open for business as yet. But I know if you were to go into a school now and you were to speak to 14, 15, 16-year-olds who spend a lot of time, maybe younger than that, playing Minecraft, and you were to show them BIM, they would say, that's what I love, that's what I go home and do after school, that's my hobby. And you can earn this great money doing it, and you can be looked after by these big companies now who do, you know, look at the whole person. And it's not a commoditized thing, and you're building something tangible. When you build a building, you can say, I worked on that. I finished it. It's not a financial infrastructure where it's all liquid assets and this confusing thing. It's a really cool career path, and I think people will get that.
I wonder what the conversion rate is. So if you looked at, children in the UK, for example, and you found out what percentage of them enjoyed playing Minecraft, okay, as one, and also like playing Lego. So there were construction games, and then sort of let's say for example it was 50%, just as I'm just like picking out a number here, and then obviously then you look at how many then go into construction, even though they liked construction as children. If you followed them, they go, well, you know, so there is creativity and want to build things, you know, in sort of children, but are we not tracking this?
Yeah,
are we not drawing this up through into adult?
We look at this at the moment. You said that. So my 3-year-old boy, for the last 2.5 years of his life, since he was 6 months old, loves diggers and tractors, absolutely loves them. And so you look at Bob the Builder and all these kind of things on TV. It's just like diggers. You can't drive a mile down the road without him just shouting at every single lorry or truck. Everything's construction based, and that's not even from me putting it on him. Like, he literally his natural love for that is there, and all the kids that I know of as well are all that. So it's like they're born with this love for these big things. But then where does that get lost? Yeah, where does it get lost? Yeah.
And maybe that's where it needs to be. We need to
have Diggerland for teenagers, basically.
But if you look at the the ecosystem for young people, like they're all their attention's on TikTok and Instagram, maybe not so much anymore. But I'm just saying, like, construction companies, like, forget showing jobs like on social media. You might as well spend your time on TikTok making relevant content, like relevant to people 15, making it like twisting it, twisting it to their age category, whether it's, as I said, 3D animations or whatever, BIM, all those type of things. But like, they're not, like 14, 15, you're not going to have much interest in, like, you know, the rough and tumble, what's going on. Like, you know, you just want to see the cool stuff that's happening.
There's other progress that has to be made as well, without getting into the culture wars in this podcast. You know, there's that generation are completely aligned with the zeitgeist of what's right and what's wrong, and how a corporate culture should be structured and who should be included in that and the other. And I think sustainability as well, massively, as we were just talking about before, the levels of wastage in the environment. I don't necessarily think that construction has to change to include those people. I think it has to be open the doors to let these young people in, to come and help.
Find solutions.
100%.
Yeah.
You're big on sustainability, Zoe?
Yeah, you know, it's you know, very much in the sort of, one of the big themes in construction. I've signed PhD up to the supply chain sustainability school. I've been to quite a few of their workshops, and there are sometimes it's just I think with a lot of construction companies, it's where do we start? What's the best solution? How can we demonstrate that we are doing our bit to be environmentally aware? But sustainability isn't just about environment.
It's such a broad term.
You've got to we've got to have a sustainable business, and that goes back to encouraging the right people back into the business so that we can keep going.
Digital media side as well. Just thinking to promote the industry, it's no one's doing it. Well, there's minimal amount of people out there doing it and showing how good it is in terms of the digital forms. Tiernan will know, but I spoke to 3 or 4 big projects and said, can we come on and just literally promote the good work you're doing? No cost to them whatsoever. We'll come on with a video crew and literally, can we just promote the good work that's going on here? And you can't get on there because they think you to come on there. They just look at the negative and the back goes up. No,
it's easy to say
yes. Yeah, and it's like what you're doing is potentially groundbreaking, literally, upon the pun, and all this stuff. It's like, this is amazing. If people could see what's going on, people will be all over this and they want to be part of it. Or then people who are on the edge of the construction decision to make if they're going to come in the industry or not, they would sell it to them straight away. But these people, I'm not going to bring out the dinosaurs comment too much, but they don't want it in there. It's just like they're just like, can't just promote. And I've said this again, I've said many a times, but the only things we highlight in construction is, one, there's a shortage of workers, and also everyone's killing themselves. I said, how good is that for a marketing? I'm no marketing guy, that sounds a bit negative to me.
I play hurling over here, and like every one of the lads who are working construction, every one of them are ran off their feet. Ran off their feet. It's just like, it's like, if I have a son, he's not going into construction in London, no chance. That's the kind of...
Yeah, I'm literally looking at my kids now, and the only reason I do, because I love construction, I think it's brilliant. I said, but I wouldn't let my children, I wouldn't want them into construction what it is at the moment. I want them into something that I can hopefully help reshape in the future. And then in 15 years' time, my son comes out and says, Dad, this is what I'm doing, that's what I want to do. And I love it. There's something in there, something that I can feel like I've played a part in. We've changed the industry a bit now, this is good. But we're just not selling it right 100%.
No, for sure. Introduction, and we forgot to introduce you, but you go for it, and can you add to Steve's point that we're just not doing
definitely.
Right?
Tiernan, I'm the creative director of Rocket Communications. We're a branding and media agency, but I've spent my whole working life working in the construction industry, and I've done work with Steve. And to expand on that point, I think you have to look at the micro and macro reasons for that people being run off their feet, and it's highly competitive. There's not enough people, and in turn for those two things, we're not going to have the space in the room to grow without new people coming in and providing that. So I think it is a community. I'm biased towards it because I work in communications, but I think there is a communication issue with that. Like Steve just highlighted, the two things that people hear. If you were to go on LinkedIn and look at construction, you see everyone's killing themselves, and there's not enough people. And from a PR perspective, it's a disaster, and it's not enticing for the next generation. And I'm really keen on working with clients and having conversations and working with people like Steve to not only help communicating all the good and the stories that we've got and the amazing stuff that's in the industry, but helping companies look at the whole person and say, what kind of person do you want to have in your business, and how are you going to attract them? It's a difficult conversation for someone to have who's never had it before, and there's so much good stuff.
It's becoming an easier sell, to be honest. Even I found from the last few months, you talking to these decision makers and just say, listen, the work we do, the communications we do, is actually, as well as attracting talent, it's just going to grow your culture and maintain talent. Because, go back to that Microsoft example, if you're going out to someone's house shooting their passion, then it's just like, fuck, they actually care, if they're putting all this effort in to promoting my side hustle. It just adds a whole new dimension. And it goes back to, I don't know, you might know that law, reciprocity, when you give something,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes even further back to evolutionary biology, to survive in tribes. No, we all have to have a sense of self and feel part of something. Yeah. And we spend most of our waking lives, I'll probably speak to everyone in this room, and we spend most of our time awake at work, and If we're not in a workplace that makes us feel included and part of something, then we're going to feel so dissatisfied in every way, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, and that's the focus. Like those case studies that you're talking about, you know, the Nikes, the Microsofts, they're people who have got it, and they're people that see the benefit in mutual two-way communication, like you're doing at PhD with the people, with the guys and girls, and speaking to them and listening to them. I think that's as important a part for growth in construction, attracting the right people, is listening to what people want and what people need.
Yeah, I think those companies like flagship for it all, aren't they? They've kind of Gymshark and Microsoft, what they're doing. Not every company's going to be that, but you can just take a little piece of it off and try and bring that into. You can easily do that. There's little things, and it's, it'll fall down eventually. So in a positive way.
So you worked in recruitment before PhD. What do you find is different between then and now?
So when I was doing recruitment,
I know you don't work in the recruitment side in PhDs. You're working in sales and marketing, but you probably hear around the office, and obviously with the media publicising the skilled labour shortage. But what was it like when you were first in recruitment? 6 or 7 years ago?
It was still challenging finding the right people for the jobs, especially when I started out, I was dealing mainly on the sort of labour and trade side. And there was some of the things that I got asked for. I'd be asked, can I have, can you make sure the labourer is English? I don't want, there was a certain amount of racism. I wasn't used to that. I was like, oh my God, you can't say that, and plus, what I used to find was a lot of the people that I was having to, for example, who were coming in as labourers, had a lot of issues. The reason why they were kind of out there, just, kind of taking on a £10 an hour job, they were having issues at home, they were having mental health problems. And then you'd have the client side criticising, you're sending me rubbish, and it was really hard to find the right match. And I think it's still the same, as far as I'm aware. I haven't heard anything different. A lot of people say, oh God, labour agencies, they just send you rubbish. And the other thing I found was I had quite good ethics about, getting people, being honest with my clients, being honest with the candidates. I started to realise that out there'd be certain people in the agencies that would lie. They'd either lie to their clients and lie to the man on the ground, telling them they had a 10-hour, like a month's work when it would maybe only be a couple of days. So this kind of false, it was like a little bit of they're sort of enticing them in and then spitting them out again, and it was I didn't like it.
And the whole thing ultimately as well, defence of the agencies as well, it's the pressure that's put on from the client as well, isn't it, to get those more people in. And at the same time, the thing, if we can't supply anyone, we can potentially be tackling off this supply chain. They think they've got to just give them anyone, and that's whereas I suppose the education and the client realising they can go, no, we can't give you. Just say no, we can't give you anymore. But then it starts saying no to pound notes again. It's just no, we can't give you anymore, because if we do give you more, the quality of the bloke is going to struggle, and us as a brand and as a company, we will look poor then. So it's just one of those, it's like, how do you tell the recruiter stop sending people? Just say no, but I suppose you don't, do you? You go out and you just try and get anyone to fill that spot.
I mean, there'd be like, for example, if I had like two, sometimes you'd have 2 spaces to fill, and you'd send five guys down. Just to hopefully, and if they all turn up, which would be a miracle, but you'd have to hedge your bets, because nothing worse than getting that phone call 7 o'clock in the morning saying, you promised me the guy was going to be here, he's not here, and then, trying to get hold of the person, only to find out that, you're getting some kind of sorry excuse, and you don't know if they're telling the truth or not, who knows, but... you've been let down, they've been let down, project slows down, it's all your fault. There was a lot of pressure on all sides. I think, I don't think at the moment the recruitment side has changed much on that side, but can we promote people being, like you said, self-employed, as a kind of, they've got a benefit. they can choose their own hours, they can choose their own, you know, what wages they want to be paid.
Yeah, I always think that as well.
That's a bit of self-empowerment.
Yeah, I can't get my head around now. I've done it, obviously, I was employed for a little while, but I speak with some people about having time off. They say, no, I can't do that. We can't go away that week or do this because I'm on holiday. I'm like, God, you're governed by someone else.
Yeah.
I can't, and I know that's why the world works. A lot of percentage of people do, but I just can't get my head around that. I'm like, I'm not going too off a tangent. But I failed career in car sales once upon a time for multiple reasons, and that was half of it. They said to me, no, you can't go skiing at the start of March. I said, it's ski season, I need to go. They said, well, March, new number plate comes out, you've got to sell cars. I was like, I don't think this is the industry for me, I'm going to have to go. So I left them the fact that I want to go skiing. I was like, well, I just can't get my head around it. But self-employed, we need to highlight how good that is really, because there's too much negative put out there.
Yeah, I spoke to a plumber actually at the weekend, and he was telling me how he'd been to South America and he took 3 months off. Yeah. And he said, you know, he goes, it was the best thing I ever did. He said, I work, save up my money, I invest it, you know, and then if I need more, I just go back out to work again. It was like, you know, living the dream.
For sure. We're pushing on the 45 minutes mark now, so we get final question for each of you. Tiernan, I'm going to go with what stamp would you put on rebranding the industry for the next 5 years, and how can we get those people that are maybe into gaming and into something similar that could possibly get them attracted into construction?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two answers to that question. There's the transference part, so there's people, working adults in other industries, looking at the opportunities they have in construction in terms of creating lifestyles, not just through money but through time and self-employment that we've spoken about. Then there's the second part of the question, which is the workforce who aren't in work yet, which is the Generation X and the guys coming through now, Gen Z, and it's a whole different question that you've got to ask them. It's more individualistic and it's looking at the person as a whole. It's looking at what the corporate social values and strategy around sustainability and inclusivity are, and these are things that might be fleeting thoughts of people running businesses, but they're robust part of the identity of this next generation, and I think that has to be communicated properly, that this is something the industry is doing, and not just relying on them to pioneer it, but you know, setting those changes in motion now and creating an open, welcoming, safe workforce for these people to come in. And then there's also the diversity of opportunity. You know, we spoke about before, there's this whole generation that's grown up playing Fortnite and Minecraft and all these things where it's using resources to build architecture, and that is where the construction industry is going, and it's showcasing diversity of opportunity, not just in digitalisation, but in what you can do in your working hours and day. And I think that is, like you said, it's at a tipping point now, and I think more conversations, more communication, more engaging, like PhD do, going and visiting schools and showcasing this opportunity, because it's still quite family centric. I know that the guys and girls that I know who work in construction all have parents or uncles or aunts who work in construction, and it's not, if you go to open days at schools and universities, you've got Deloitte, McKinsey, you've got JP Morgan, you've got these big banks and consultancy institutions who go, and construction just doesn't do it. You might get a Gaelic Homes or a Ballymore, one of the bigger guys down there as developers, but on the whole I think we need to have a look at how we're communicating, and if we're communicating with that next generation of people coming through and showcasing the value of the industry. And yeah, there's a lot of conversations to be had. Yeah,
and as well, this is a different conversation, but it's all well on creating that fantastic attraction brand, but you have to walk the walk as well, like, you have
to back it up. Yeah. There's no room for virtue signalling, and there's no room for look at us, we do that. It has to be ingrained operationally, or else you're not building any longevity in terms of your brand and recruitment employment. People turn up on day one and say, no, this isn't what it is. It has to be backed up, and it has to be part of the structure, and it's just a lot of reorganisation. But if we want to keep growing as an industry and tackling the biggest problems, which is having people come and work with us, then these are the actions we have to start undergoing.
For sure. Steve, from your side, you can, if you want to come from a sport angle as well, that's an interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that is it. We can't stand here as an industry and just say we'll wait for them to come to us, because it's not working like that. I think falling out of school, I think we've got to go. You literally got to go and find these people. And it's like just touching the sport. People won't come and find the industry from a trades level. It will do that senior guys. These people who are a bit more career driven, they can pathway out a way of coming into it, university life, and they're taken. But these 14, 15-year-olds are completely open. I'd say open to being construction workers. They just don't know it.
It's it's
literally there for them. It's just going out and finding them. And there's many people I know, and you probably can. You speak to that, say, I've been there before in time. I don't know, and I can't. It's hard to get into. It's not hard. They just don't know how. But you can go into. We've done it. I went to the prison system last year. Not personally, not for any time. Actually, going to visit them with Saracens Rugby Club. Visit some ex-offenders, and they pretty much put two over to me and said two lads, and these lads just said that we just need an opportunity to get some money in, and that was it. We got them a CSCS card, and they were working in a matter of time. That was two great success stories, and there's been a few of those. It's just like give these guys the opportunity. One thing, and that is not easy, is just getting a CSCS card. What a pain that is. Yeah, there's literally, and the prison system, like I think they say it's 48 hours. You've got 48 hours to when they walk out that door to make the most of that situation. You need to. They're very like it's just for two pathways. Yeah. The side are taken back round or a successful one, and you've got to capture in that too. But it's like I had one lad. He come out of the military, the prison system, and he then found his 2 weeks later. He found his CSCS card, and then his test by a couple of points, and he wanted to rebook straight away, but he couldn't rebook for 10 days. I was like, but you've lost someone then straight away potentially. I booked it myself and said, there you go, and on it, and we got it done for him. I was like, why does he have to wait 10 days? It's a touchscreen test. Why can't he just do it again in the afternoon? He's learned. What else difference is he going to make? Like, we're letting them things go. And so we need to get in there, get into these prison systems, get into the schools, primary, secondary schools, not so much colleges and that. These people are there. Let's promote construction into there. Bring them out. The military, again, like the same, military and prison, is about 14,000 people a year come out of each of those industries. The prison service, there's like 28,000 people there, all without really much knowing what they're going to go and do. So it's like they're sitting there waiting to come in. So we need to go out and find them. A job fair is not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. You can't put a banner up in a job fair for a day and then take pictures. We've got to LinkedIn though.
I know. It's like people think that's like even something at Christmas. It'll just spike up and go straight back down straight away. It needs to be consistent.
To literally do it. But
I know. We can have more chats. Zoe, what are your thoughts?
I think we also need to promote the stability of the construction industry. It's one of the things. Look at what happened with COVID. So many people, got furloughed in other industries. I think construction industry just kind of still powered through, and we've come out the other end. I think young people are looking for that sort of stability. They're looking for an industry that's going to support them, and we are making the right steps. It's just, are we promoting it?
Yeah.
Why don't young people know about it? So I think it goes back down to what Tina said, communicating. About all the positives, and then if we can get more people in, it will hopefully give the people that are in already a little bit more time to be more thoughtful, and give them a bit more time to then kind of help things kind of get improve within the sector. There's there's obviously the people that are in it are overworked at the moment. So if we can get more people in, we'll free up the time.
You're a great success story, isn't it? You say that you come in because it's flexible hours there. And one other company who said that, they said, we've realised there's this huge pocket of mothers who are at home who've got 3 or 4 hour windows every day when they can't find a job that suits that, whereas there's so many construction companies out. I think if someone realises there's some people local who can literally come in and also a couple of hours just to take a little bit of load, and that suddenly creates a mother coming into the construction industry, then promotes the good stuff down to their children.
Untapped.
If people want to find PhD or want to apply for any jobs or just look at the brand more, you're fairly active on social media and your website, isn't it?
Yeah, our website is www.phdAccess.com. We've got all the company information on there, and also links to our social media pages and any careers and career opportunities we've got.
Yeah, Steve? Yeah, all online, constructionsport.com. LinkedIn's a big one for us, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the socials are on there at Construction Sport. Yeah, all over the place really. So, well, you should hopefully hear of us before we find you.
And Tiernan?
Yeah, rocketcommunications.co.uk, or just find me, Tiernan Dixon, on LinkedIn and drop me a message. Happy to talk to anyone about their story and their brand.
Yeah, good stuff. All good? Yeah, fair play, guys. I enjoyed that.